Welcome in to the 36th episode of the Southern Boys Sports Podcast. My name is Drew Hollangs, my co-host Ben Clay.
What's going on, guys?
And as promised, episode 36, the Field of 68, has just been selected. It is Sunday, March 12th. We're getting this to you before the action of March Madness. We are joined by Jim Maisano from the College Hoops Chat radio show. Jim, appreciate you joining us for episode 36. Field of 68 was just selected, and we're excited to break it down with you, man.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here tonight.
Yeah. A lot to get to, obviously. But before we get started, just go ahead, go follow Jim over on Twitter at Jim Maisano on Twitter, and follow his show as well at COLL Hoops Chat on Twitter. Jim, we'll start real personal, I guess, your personal life. Obviously, you run the College Hoops Chat podcast up in New York, but, I'm under the assumption that you have a full-time job. You do other things outside of it. So we'll start there. What do you do outside of college hoops? Obviously, you've done pretty successful there, but, what do you do outside of it? And what's your personal life like, man?
So I am the director of the Westchester County Consumer Protection Department. Spend the day helping people with their complaints. If you go to a store and you feel like you got a bad deal in a store, you call our office and we try to help you out. We do inspections. We license contractors. I'm busy 9 to 5 all day.
Yeah. Well, it is March. You're in the prime of, college hoops, and I know that's a good feeling. Ben, it's been pretty chilly down here. It doesn't really feel like March. It doesn't feel like baseball weather or March Madness. Usually I'm in South Carolina during this time, but I'm staying home and it's chilly. I'm not liking it. Ben, before we get to Jim and all those good questions, how's your past week been? How you liking this weather? Because I'm not.
It's been good. It's been cold, and we're getting ready for these 5 games this week. It'll be cold outside, so geared up for that.
Yeah, Jim, I know we're in Tennessee and it's cold down here. I know it's got to be cold up north. What's the weather usually like around this time? Is it staying on par, or is it shifting a little colder or warmer up there in New Rochelle?
We're seasonal. Usually this time of year, the first half of March is in the 40s during the day and the 30s at night. But by the end of March, we'll get in the 50s.
Hey, the 50s isn't bad. I'm used to being in Hilton Head, South Carolina during this time. It's usually 80, 90, but no, stuck here. It's about 45 degrees outside. It's not too bright. But Jim, we'll get to you. Let's get straight to the college hoops talk, because, this is what we're here for. You talked about your 9 to 5 job. You talked about your personal life. How did you start this College Hoops Chat podcast or radio show? And, how did that kind of blossom into what it is now?
So I am an attorney by trade, and I did that for a few decades. And then at the same time I was an attorney, I was an elected official. I served in the county legislature. So I had 2 jobs at once, and I was very, very busy, 60, 70 hours a week. So when I accepted the new job, I retired from the legislature, and I took a break from my law firm to be the consumer protection director. And now I found myself coming home at 5 o'clock at night, and I had free time for the first time in 25 years. I always loved college basketball. I've been watching college basketball, believe it or not, since you guys look a little younger than me, since the 70s. I literally watched college basketball in the 70s. I followed it my entire life. And so I went to a local radio station where I did radio shows as an elected official and said, can I start a college basketball radio show? And they said, sure, have at it. And it worked out pretty well. We're up to hundreds of listeners, and it's right outside of New York City. And the show's, become known. People know about it. They talk about it on Twitter. People interact with us on Twitter. So it's been a success. It's a hobby. I'm not, it's not a business yet. It's a hobby, but I'm having fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, well, that's all that matters. That's the stage we're in, growing the name, just doing it for fun at this point. Got steps to go before we get to the 9 to 5 job, but nonetheless, doing it for fun. And we're excited to have you on here for episode 36.
Are you guys where are you in Tennessee?
We're in Nashville.
I love Nashville.
Yeah.
I wish I was there.
I like Nashville.
Go to South Broadway and go hear all the country music.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. My family's from Knoxville and moved down to Nashville. So I've lived here just about my whole life. I like it. I think I take it for granted because, we've had a couple other guests on talking college football, and everybody's like, man, I love Nashville. And I guess I take it for granted because sometimes when I go downtown, all these Broadway girls and stuff like that, it kind of gets out of hand. But, from what I've heard, a lot of people from out of town really like it. So I'm glad to hear that.
What's funny is even adults love it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people my age
Yeah.
like to go there, and not so much to like party, but to hear the bands, have a couple of beers. It's a nice trip for older people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, either way, a team out of Nashville, this is right on topic. A team out of Nashville and the Vanderbilt Commodores got left out of the field. A couple local shows and local podcasts here in Nashville have been talking about the Doors being left out. And that's our first question. We're just going to discuss the bubble. Obviously, the last 4 teams in have been selected. Clemson, Rutgers, North Carolina, and Oklahoma State get left out of the field alongside Vanderbilt, like I said. The talk's been around the bubble a lot, as it usually is. What did you think of the bubble? What teams would you have put in or left out? And any key takeaways from those teams who made it in?
Well, I have one big thought. And the one big thought is I don't want to say the word shocked. So let's say surprised that Nevada and Arizona State got in above Rutgers.
Yep.
I mean, here's Rutgers being one of the better teams in the Big Ten, one of the toughest, most rugged conferences to play in. They beat Purdue at Purdue. If you take a look at Ken Palm, I'm sure you guys know about Ken Palm.
Right.
Believe it or not, Rutgers was ranked higher on Ken Palm than 12 teams that got at-large bids into the tournament.
Yep.
And, basically Ken Palm says if these 2 teams played 10 times, the higher ranked team would win. Could you imagine they were higher than 12 of them? Like, I mean, Rutgers is very good. I watched them a lot because I'm up here in New York. And, they're I think the 3rd best defensive team in the country.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they almost beat Purdue a couple of days ago. I mean, this is a really good basketball team. I was really surprised. I mean, nothing against Nevada. Nevada ended the season on a 3-game losing streak and couldn't even win a game in the Mountain West tournament. And they got the automatic bid over Rutgers.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And another team out of the Mountain West that I think surprised a couple people is Utah State getting in as a 10, right? Not even playing in that first 4 game. Granted, they did play a little bit better down the stretch than Nevada. And, listening to the CBS selection show, you heard a lot. We're looking at the totality of what they've done this season, not just how they ended the season, and all that good stuff. But it was surprising to me, and I guess I'll give you your take on this as well. What you saw from Utah State that maybe put them above those other teams, or, even if you disagree with that.
I thought Utah State should get in, but I didn't think they would get that high of a seed.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was surprised about with Utah State. They're really good. They're fun to watch. I don't know if you ever caught them late night. You got to watch TV at like 11 o'clock at night to see Utah State. But they're fast. They're explosive. They're talented. They'll be a fun team to watch in the tournament. But I did think they were seeded higher than they should have been.
Yeah. Well, they play Missouri in the first round. The 7 seed.
Game.
Yeah, that is a great game. And obviously, as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, I'm a huge Tennessee fan. They beat us twice, beat us in the tournament, beat us on a buzzer beater. So I'm rooting for Utah State in that one, to be honest with you. But yeah, it should be a very intriguing game. Ben?
So you're a Tennessee fan.
I am.
I'm so curious about how they're going to play in a tournament without Ziegler.
Yeah.
It's a big question. I don't know the answer. You might know.
Yeah, well, I think, I talked with a couple other Tennessee fans, obviously, and the thing about Ziegler was he was really, really good on the defensive end of the ball, right? And that's obviously something that Rick Barnes really, really likes, right? That's kind of the identity and what's kept Tennessee in games down the stretch. They've been able to compete with better teams like Alabama, right? They beat Alabama. They beat Kansas earlier in the season because their defense is so good. So he was obviously a key piece to that. He's a great on-ball and even off-ball defender. That being said, he only shoots 31% from the 3. He took bad shots at times. So offensively, not as impacted with Ziegler being gone. Defensively, which is obviously the motto of Tennessee and Rick Barnes, is the defensive side of the ball. Definitely a big loss for Tennessee. So I guess to answer your question, Tennessee without Zakai Ziegler, much, much less, much worse, I should say, defensively than before. But look, it's going to be tough to get by Louisiana. I was filling out my brackets, and I didn't know, honestly. They've got a great big that plays kind of post-centric style, and Tennessee has struggled with that, whether it's Sheboy, Oscar Brown, Liam Robbins from Vanderbilt, Colin Castleton from Florida. We've seemed to struggle with those guys, so it's going to be
just
tough.
So you know, I am a Gamecock fan because my son is a Gamecock. That's probably not a good thing with you after the football season. But I want you to know that Yeah, I think you'll beat Louisiana in the first round. I felt comfortable about Tennessee winning that game. And then you got to play probably Duke.
Right. Yeah, that's
And I will be
brutal.
cheering really loud for you, just so you know, because even though my son is a Gamecock, one of my favorite basketball teams is the Tar Heels. So
Okay.
I root for the Tar Heels and anyone who Duke is playing. I root against Duke.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that South Carolina beat Duke, right? In the round of 32 to advance all the way to the Final Four not too long ago.
That's right.
So I guess you got the upper hand there. But
they weren't
Ben,
there yet. My son was in high school then. He wasn't a Gamecock yet.
Ben, you can go ahead now.
Right. So shifting to the 1 seeds, we got Houston, Purdue, Kansas, and Bama, obviously. Are you happy with these 1 seeds, or do you think something could have been switched up around them?
I was generally okay. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys have read something. I haven't seen anything determinative, but is Sasser going to play for Houston in the tournament? If he doesn't, then they're not a 1 seed. Houston is not a 1 seed without Sasser. So assuming that he will play, I'm okay with them there. But I think that's awfully. Texas is right there. Texas is playing pretty well. They come out of the hardest conference in the Big 12 as the 2nd seed. I don't know if Houston gets by Texas. I really don't. As a matter of fact, if I had to pick right now, I would say Texas beats Houston.
Yeah. Well, Ben, you're an Oklahoma fan, so I know you're probably rooting for Houston in this one.
Yeah, definitely not Texas. I'll tell you that.
But no, I'm going to have to agree. I like what Texas has brought this year. I'm a big fan of their 6th man and Serge Jabari Rice. I like what he's done. And I really like, I love what their interim coach has done to come in after something that the controversy behind Chris Beard and all that, take him to the 2 seed and arguably could have been a 1 seed. I really like that as well.
Agree.
But, we talked about it just a little bit ago, and I've got a more structured question around it, I guess, and that's Tennessee, Louisiana.
Can I add one thing? One thing on the seeds?
Yeah.
I am different than I think the people I just watched on the talk shows. I think Alabama, even though I think they deserve to be a 1 seed, and maybe as I'm biased because I'm a Gamecock fan and you Volunteer fans may be as biased as me, but I think Arizona will beat Alabama if they face each other in the Sweet 16. I really do. I think Arizona is a more of a complete basketball team, and they can really score the board. So can Alabama, but Alabama's a little inconsistent, and if they're a little off that night, Arizona has a lot of guys. They've got 5-6 guys that could score. I think Arizona is a better basketball team than Alabama. I really do. But I know that's not a majority opinion, so we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and I just watched the earlier today before the selection show was the SEC championship game, so that was A&M and Alabama battling it out. Javon Quinterly seems to be kind of the key to Alabama's success. Obviously, Brandon Miller's really good. Charles Bediako's really good. But when you have a guy like Javon Quinterly who played the other day against Missouri, the game was somewhat close. They let the Tigers hang around a little bit earlier in the game. Javon Quinterly, I think, had 1 point, and he was like 0 for 9 from the field. This game, he comes out, he was shooting the ball really, really well. And, I mean, it was Alabama the whole game, up by 17, 18, got all up big, right? Quinterly's a really good defender. He played really good on Wade Taylor of A&M. And if he can do the same on Kirk Hresha from Arizona, maybe you have something there for Alabama. But like you said, I'm high on Arizona as well, coming off the Pac-12 championship.
Just one other thing to Ben's question. I think the craziest seeding is in the West because Kansas, UCLA's 2, Gonzaga 3, UConn 4. I mean, I could see any of those teams winning.
Yeah.
I think they're all really close and bunched up. So, I think Kansas had to be the number 1 seed because, right, their terrific season they had, except at the end. But, can I see UCLA beat Kansas? Sure. Can I see Gonzaga beat Kansas? I could. And I think UConn, too. UConn's inconsistent. But when UConn's on, they can beat anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'll go – actually, we were talking about the West region, and I'd like to stay there. Obviously, maybe a team of interest up in New Rochelle, the Iona Gales taking on UConn in the first round. I guess we can talk about Iona just a little bit. I think you're pretty high on UConn, so that's been established. But I'll let you take the floor on this one. Key takeaways from the West region, key takeaways from that first-round game between UConn and Iona. Is it an upset, or are you rocking with the Huskies?
So, just so you know, I attended Iona Prep for high school, and my brothers went to Iona College. So my radio show only really covers one team 100%, and that's Iona. So I have season tickets. I go to every game. I've been going to Iona games since I was in grammar school. I met Jim Maisano when he was shaking hands on the court back in the late
Oh, my.
70s. I mean, I have a history with Iona, so I'm going to be screaming and yelling. I might even go to the game. I got to figure out my schedule. It's
Right.
in Albany. It's not far from me. It's only 2 hours away. So I
Mhm.
might go to the game. But so with that said, I'm biased. I'm letting you know my bias ahead of time. I love the Iona Gales, and I cover them on my show, and I go to every game. I was there last night in Atlantic City when they won the MAC championship.
Yep.
So look, you have a Hall of Fame coach. You have a guy that's won the national championship with 2 different programs. You have a guy in Rick Pitino, of course, is who I'm talking about, who is brilliant. Rick is a brilliant basketball coach. I get to watch it. It's really cool, right? This is this fun hobby I have, this radio show. I get to interview Rick after every show. Like, how cool is that, guys? You know, like really, really cool. And he's a nice guy. Just so you know, people say things about him a lot on Twitter. I could tell you, I've interviewed him 70 times in 3 years, and he's never not been professional and a gentleman and a nice guy and treated me with respect. And in life, you can only view people the way they treat you. And Rick Pitino's been a total class act with me. So watching him is unbelievable. You know, he's got this belief that his pressure defense wears down a team. So he's designed for decades this pressure. If he has the guys to play full court defense and wear out the other team. So a lot of coaches say things like that, but I get to watch it, and it really works. This guy knows what he's doing. You know, this is a really smart dude. And I've watched Iona, including last night, you know, where it was a tie game with 12 minutes to go against Marist. And then sure enough, the defense was still grinding. They were still pressing, and they fell apart. Iona won by 20. They took off the last 4 minutes. Rick knows what he's doing. The reason I say this to you guys is he's going to know what he's going to do. He knows what he's doing right now to prepare for this game against UConn. He's going to be sitting there with his coaches. And I don't know if you know, one of his assistant coaches is a former Connecticut assistant coach.
Okay.
Very convenient this week for scout, right? So Rick is going to be getting ready for this game. He's going to have a great game plan. He's going to do everything humanly possible, put his team in the position to win, and he might just do it. I mean, look, Connecticut's the favorite. The point spread's going to be, the points are going to Iona. Experts are going to pick Connecticut. But do I think if Iona plays that pressure defense properly and stops Connecticut's runs, I don't know how many times you've seen Connecticut, but they get up points in bunches. They get on a run, they hit 3-pointers, breakaways, but Rick's going to know that. And Rick's going to do his best to shut it down. And one thing Iona doesn't do, if you look on KenPom, Iona doesn't turn it over a lot, which is really helpful against UConn, who gets a lot of points on fast breaks. So do I think Iona could win the game? Yes. I don't know that they're going to win the game, but I think Rick Pitino will put them in a position where they'll have a chance. How's that?
Yeah. Well, you know, let's talk college basketball, but maybe not specifically March Madness in this segue of a question I've got for you. Big Rick Pitino fans and the Iona fan base obviously has done excellent things for the program. How have the rumors swirling of him going to Georgetown, maybe heading to Louisville if there's an opening, going back to the Cardinals, or, you know, a couple of those other job openings? You a big fan of those rumors, or, you know, what are Iona fans
I'm
thinking?
avoiding the rumors because the rumors are rumors. I think some of the people making the rumors don't know what they're talking about. Like, I'm pretty close to it, guys, right? I mean, you're talking to a guy who's interviewed him 70 times. Maybe I know a little more than some guy on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what I know quickly. He's not dealing with any of this right now, despite what you read. I mean, Rick has basically made it clear to any people who would like to talk to him about an open job, get back to me after I finish the NCAA tournament. So if you read some of these posts, I think you've probably seen it. It looks like they're ready. He's going to sign a deal any day, right? Yeah. If you look at these posts on Twitter, Rick's not even having negotiations with anybody. All right. So just know that Rick's right now. If you know Rick, you know that as we're doing this podcast, Rick is in a room with his coaches, and they're going to be there like all night plotting how to beat UConn. Like, he's not talking to anybody about a job right now. He's trying to beat UConn. So nothing's happening this week. Nothing's happening until Iona gets knocked out. listen, if Iona beats UConn, they could probably make it to the Sweet 16. So so that has to happen first. Iona's got to lose in NCAA tournament. After that point, I do think Rick's at this point now where he's frustrated being in a single bid league. He wants to be in a multi-big league because he finds it frustrating that you can have a great season like he did last year and have a bad night and get knocked out of your conference tournament, and there's really no two bids from the MAC conference. So I do think Rick would move to a better opportunity if he believes it is a better opportunity. That's the most important thing. He's got to believe it's a better opportunity. He's got a pretty good life right now. He lives in a big house on Wingfoot Golf Course and drives 10 minutes over to Iona, and he's going to the NCAA tournament. This is not a bad life for a 71-year-old gentleman. He doesn't have to prove anything. He's already won the national championship twice. Yeah. So I think that certain schools probably do intrigue him, but at this point, they're just names on a piece of paper. And when Iona gets knocked out, he'll start seriously dealing with this. So whatever you read now, you should know that that's rumor, and the real Rick will get real about this after Iona gets knocked out of the tournament. Not now.
Yeah. We talked about 113 seed in Iona. We've talked about the West region. Let's head elsewhere. Let's go to a Virginia team that just lost last night in the ACC tournament to the Duke Blue Devils. A first-year coach, he's doing a good job. But my question is, Virginia's opponent, right? That's the Furman Paladins. They've obviously had a really good year. They come back, they get revenge on Chattanooga in the SoCon after David Jean-Baptiste hits a half-court prayer to beat him last year and knock him out. This year, the Paladins are back. Glancing over the bracket, looking to fill out my bracket, early in the process, I'm liking Furman to pull an upset, and they have San Diego State or Charleston, which could ultimately result in maybe sending them to the Sweet 16. Do you like Furman as a Cinderella, or are you picking Virginia?
Furman spaces really well. They shoot really well. They're a dangerous team. If they're getting hot with their threes, they're a team that can win a lot of games. But I would just say, I'm quoting somebody, Seth Greenberg just now, one of those talk shows. They've never seen a defense like Virginia. Yeah, and the way that Virginia can guard the three. I mean, this is as good a team there is at guarding the three. I think Furman's going to have a hard time with the Virginia defense.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia, I think it ended up being somewhere low 30s, maybe high 20s last night from the field, and ultimately held Duke to a pretty low amount of points, somewhere in the 50s. And it was like 42 to 30 something with 8 minutes to go in the whole game. So holding, Kyle Filipowski and all those guys, Proctor, all those guys at Duke to such a low percentage, I can see that. You and Seth Greenberg's point about the Furman offense maybe struggling with that defense.
But let's talk about another upset with Virginia.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
It would not shock me at all if Virginia beat Alabama. That Virginia's defense makes Alabama frustrated as heck. I don't know. Virginia is such a frustrating defense. They frustrate everybody. You got a lot of freshmen. This is their first NCAA tournament. I certainly think Virginia gives Alabama a game if they both make it.
Yeah. Obviously, Ben Vanderplas down for the year with a hand injury definitely really, really hurts him.
Yeah.
But they've got some guys down low that can match up well with Brandon Miller. They've got a guard up top who's been there for what seems like 11 years, and Kihei Clark, who could play some pretty good defense on Sears, Bradley, Quinterly up top. So, I could definitely see that. Ben, you can go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So moving on to the East region, this tough Memphis team plays FAU. That'll be a really good game. And you also got Purdue over there. What are some takeaways?
Game. That's like one of those games. When I saw it come out, I want to see that game.
I know. Yeah, for sure.
I don't really know a lot about Florida Atlantic, to be honest with you. Yeah. I haven't seen them more than a couple of times. They're not on TV that much, frankly. You got to really look for them. I like Memphis. Memphis plays Houston tough, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the best games in the first round of the tournament, don't you?
Yeah, for sure.
I think, when I saw that came out, and really all the 8-9 matchups throughout, you got Iowa and Auburn, excellent game. Illinois and Arkansas for the chance to go play Kansas. Both those teams could be tough suitors for Kansas in the next round. FAU and Memphis, two mid-major teams that are really competitive this season. So a lot of those games are really, really good. I saw FAU play at MTSU. It's relatively local, so I went down and watched them play, and they look pretty good. I liked what I saw out of them. It's going to be tough, though, right? Memphis really, really, like you said, they did take Houston down to the wire. They beat them today. So, Memphis is a team. Kendrick Davis, one of the best point guards in the nation. DeAndre Williams is a really good forward. They've got some good bench production. So it's going to be tough. Like you said, definitely one of the best games of the first round. Jim, any other big takeaways from the East region in general? Obviously, Purdue's over there, Tennessee, Duke, and that Oral Roberts matchup in the first round could be something to talk about.
I guess obviously you always look at the 8-9 game as the best game. We just talked about it. The 7-10 Michigan State USC should be a really good game.
Yes.
Tom Izzo, like I described, Pitino knows exactly what he's doing, how to prepare a team for the tournament, how to get them ready for their first game. But USC's got talent. Ellis and a bunch of guys are back from the last team that went to the tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a very close game, USC and Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like USC Michigan State, and it kind of reminds me of the game Michigan State had last year. I believe they were the same seed, and they played Davidson, I want to say, in the first round, and that was a 7-10 game. Davidson obviously had Foster Lawyer. Michigan State went on to go play Duke, and that was a really good game. And the winner of that game will go take on Marquette or Vermont, most likely the Golden Eagles and Shaka Smart. And Marquette playing a Michigan State team, that could end up being a really good game that could go down to the wire. So once you get to the second round matchups, I really like what I see. Michigan State, Marquette, like I said, Kentucky, Kansas State, that Kentucky-Providence game could be a pretty good game.
Yeah, that game could go either way because Kentucky, as you guys well know, because you're right, one state away, they're up and down. Have you ever seen a team with that much talent that's that inconsistent?
They almost I think they won one game against Vanderbilt, almost got swept by them, and then swept Tennessee, who's a 4 seed in the tournament. Exactly. So I think that
they're a weird team.
Yeah,
they're a weird team. Those like that too. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head what Brack there. Iowa can play magnificent and play bad like in 2 games in a row. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I was going to be in the Midwest, it looks like. So they'll play Auburn. Winner will play Houston. And, that'll be an intriguing game.
Hey, you know what game we didn't talk about, which I think is a great game in the first round?
Yeah.
North Carolina State and Creighton.
Yeah.
I think that's a terrific basketball game. I can't tell you who's going to win it. I think it's a great game.
Yeah. NC State's got a couple options on offense. Obviously, it surprised a lot of people, I think, that they were not a first 4-in team, and they actually just got to straight up play. They were in, from what it looked like the committee's eyes, they were in. So they've got a good chance to go in and upset Creighton in the first round. The winner will take on Baylor. But look, Creighton is another team. We've talked about a couple teams like this. Creighton gets hot. They can be really, really dangerous. Baylor matches up against them in the second round. Creighton could be a team that makes a Sweet 16, Elite 8 run. We'll see how it goes. I like Baylor a lot, obviously. But if Creighton gets hot, I could see them going relatively far. Like you said, that NC State game in the first round is going to be just a great one to watch.
Yeah, they're kind of a great. I like watching North Carolina State because when the 3 guards are hitting, right, and you have that big guy down low, DJ, right?
Yep.
They could beat anybody when they're rolling. That's a team, and they have beaten some really good teams. But Creighton's the same way. That game could go either way. And you could make an argument 2 or 3 different ways on who's going to win.
Yeah.
Kalkbrenner, though, is huge. He changes the game because he's so dominant on defense.
Yeah. I like a couple of those big. The Big East has been pretty strong this year, right? Xavier is a 3 seed, Marquette is a 2 seed, Creighton gets a 6 seed. Obviously, Patrick Ewing was fired at Georgetown, so that's not great. But you get Villanova's not in the tournament. Also, although a couple people were talking about, the buzz around them heating up toward the Big East tournament, DePaul made a run. They were ultimately about to pull off the upset of the Xavier before they got cut short there as well. So the Big East is strong. Like you said, Kalkbrenner, some guys like that. Marquette got a couple guys that could really change.
What about Marquette? Well. Marquette won the Big East. They looked impressive. They played better as the tournament went on. They seemed to really respond to their coach, Shaka Smart. I've watched them so many times this year. They play really great defense, but their offense can get rolling too. either hitting threes or driving to the hole and dishing and hitting wide open guys. That's a pretty fun team to watch. I mean, can I see them make a run to the Elite Eight? Sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, Michigan State, USC is going to be a tough game there. Kentucky, Kansas State, but I think they're able to compete. Teams in the Big East we've seen Villanova make multiple runs, so there should be no problem with that there. So, yeah, I like Marquette as well.
And Marquette's in the East. And I think the East, I don't know what to think about Purdue because everybody talks on Twitter about the flaws in Purdue, how their freshman point guards can't handle the pressure. We actually got to see it in the Big Ten tournament. By the way, Rutgers almost beat them that way, the team that didn't make it. And yet, despite what everybody says about Purdue, you know what they do? They win.
They do.
They find a way to win every damn game. Not only did they win the Big Ten regular season, but then they went and won the tournament. I mean, Purdue finds a way to win. Last year, I had Purdue in the Final Four, and they broke my heart losing to St. Peter's and ruined my bracket at the same time. I'm a little gun shy. I'm picking Purdue again to the Final Four, but I may because this team, obviously, they have the most dominant player in the country, in Zach Edey. They got these freshman guards who I don't think are freshman guards anymore because they played 34 games. It's not, you're not much of a freshman after you played 34. You started 34 games and you played your regular season in the Big Ten, which is a grind. So I think Purdue is really good, but Purdue Marquette, if that happens, that's a heck of a game.
That is. And I think what kind of went into when again, looking over the bracket, logging into Tournament Challenge for the first time since last April, right? And I looked at that Purdue matchup, that East region, kind of what they got going. I think Purdue flies through the first two rounds. I don't think anyone can guard Zach Edey. Guard play from Kendrick Davis may give Memphis a little bit of an edge, maybe keep it close, but I think Edey gets by any of those bigs. Once you get down to Derek Lively guarding Zach Edey, a good Duke defense could maybe compete with Purdue if they're able to get by Tennessee or Louisiana.
Wait a second. Your Volunteers are going to knock out Duke. Didn't we already establish
that? So.
I'm expecting your Volunteers to knock out Duke. Wait a second.
I mean, look, if we can beat Duke, I don't think there's any way anyone on our team, although we do have a 7'2" center in Euros Plavsic, maybe he goes in and competes with Zach Edey. Maybe that gives us a slight edge, but I don't know. I like Derek Lively and those Blue Devils.
That would be a heck of a game. Listen, Tennessee, Purdue, or Duke, Purdue, those are all tremendous basketball games. I would love to see any of them.
Yeah. We just got a couple more questions for you, Ben. You can give one of these last two questions for Mr. Maisano.
Right. So we've obviously touched on these intriguing matchups, but if you could give people 3 games that they should definitely tune in to watch, what 3 games would you pick?
In the first round?
Yeah.
North Carolina State at Creighton.
Yep.
I think Penn State, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Terrific game. And you know what game I like? Because it's not two teams that people don't normally watch, but I think it's going to be a terrific game because their styles are so diametrically opposed. VCU and St. Mary's.
Yeah.
That's a terrific basketball game. And by the way, we didn't talk about this, and I just watched those talk shows before I joined you, and they weren't talking about it there either. And nobody's talking about Gonzaga. Gonzaga finished the season very strong.
Yeah, they did.
Can they get to the Elite Eight Final Four? Sure. Gonzaga could do that. I'm not saying I didn't do my bracket yet, so I didn't make my prediction. But Gonzaga's terrific, and they played better and better as the season went on. They have Drew Timme. The point guard has dramatically improved in the course of the season. Kind of like we said about the Purdue guys, their point guard came out cold. He was a combo guard. They made be the point guard. But now he's played 32 games, whatever it is. Yeah. He's not a freshman anymore, and he's grown up. And he's somebody who could lead Gonzaga in the tournament. Watch Gonzaga. And St. Mary's is almost as good as Gonzaga. So those are fun teams.
Yeah. I mean, I think people who maybe don't watch college basketball from November all the way to March, you see VCU and you see a quote week 5 seed for those who don't really watch college basketball a ton. And St. Mary's, I think that's easily, you're going to see a lot of upset picked for VCU to go out there and beat St. Mary's. But like you said, St. Mary's had a really strong season. They've got a couple guys in the backcourt who can really, really compete. That being said, the Rams of VCU have a great backcourt as well. So that'll be fun. Like you said, Gonzaga, Drew Timme.
And a clash in styles. right?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
St. Mary's that they're like Virginia. They take their time. They use the clock. They play defense. They play smart. They don't turn the ball over. And you have VCU with the pressure defense, like we talked about with Iona before, that's going to pressure them the whole game. What a terrific basketball game.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be really fun. Gonzaga gets a pretty good pull in the first round with a 5 seed out of the Western Athletic Conference who ended up winning the tournament last night against Southern Utah in Grand Canyon. So that should be a relatively easy matchup for Gonzaga, but it's March. You never know. And then TCU and the winner of Arizona State in Nevada. So definitely a favorable little section right there for Gonzaga to at least make the Sweet 16. Ultimately, they run into UCLA, Boise State, Northwestern. Boo Booey's obviously been really good. He got the Pac-12 Player of the Year down there in Jaime Jaquez. But definitely a favorable pull in the first couple of rounds for the Zags, and I could see them making a run. That's a good point.
What I'm wondering, here's what I keep thinking about.
Okay.
And I haven't come to an answer yet, but I want to get that next day or two.
All right.
There's somebody out there that's at St. Peter's this year that nobody's even talking about is going to win 2 games. Who is it?
It's been tough for me to find. Vermont burned me bad last year. They were a 13 seed. I thought I had them, and then Arkansas obviously ultimately decided to make a deep run and busted my whole bracket. Obviously, St. Peter's was along the same lines. We've seen Oral Roberts do it. A lot of people have been talking about Princeton as a team that could win a couple games. I don't see it. They don't really have any good wins, but I guess you never know. Like, it's just so up in the air. St. Peter's was a team who no one saw them coming. They come out, Doug Edert gets hot. They beat a couple teams, start finding their stride. So if I had a pick, I like UNC Asheville a lot. The first round matchup against UCLA is really, really tough, but that's what people said last year against Kentucky, and you never know. They have Tennessee transfer.
What about like Kennesaw State and University of California at Santa Barbara? I wrote those 2 down to do a little more research on. They're both very good teams.
Yeah, I actually, and I texted, we've got a group chat with, our old co-host and then a couple other people for the podcast. And I said, I would love to pick Kennesaw State. I really like what they got going. I like what they did. They ended up beating Liberty. Obviously, they made a run in the A-Sun. And I like them. They play Xavier in the first round, who is a tough team to beat. But we saw DePaul almost do it. Like, why not Kennesaw State, I guess?
Yes.
We saw
I remember Xavier lost maybe their best player in Zach Fremantle. It's a power. And what I find in college basketball, the hardest injury to get is like power forward, because it's not like teams have 2 or 3 power forwards sitting there on a bench in college basketball. Maybe Kentucky does and Duke does, but not everybody else does. Power forward's really hard to replace.
Yeah. And ultimately, the next round, if Kennesaw State was to win, they take on Iowa State or the winner of that looks like Mississippi State or Pitt. So potentially, that's a relatively weak 6-11 bracket right there. Maybe you see Kennesaw State make a run. I like that pick. And UCSB, familiar tournament team, plays Baylor. So that could definitely be something to keep an eye out on. Jim, last question we got here for you. Probably the biggest question of them all. Obviously, you did mention you haven't filled out your bracket, so there's no problem with that. But last question, got to go out big. If you could pick a team to win the national championship, to make it all the way, who's that team? And honestly, I think it's more open than any year. Who is that team that you would pick? Who have you liked watching the most this year?
Purdue.
Purdue. Okay, so you're going with
because I just think Zach Edey.
Yep.
Is just so unguardable, and I think the early rounds, as you said, is going to be kind of easy for Purdue because these lower seeds can't guard Zach Edey. The Big Ten could barely. Actually, maybe the Big Ten didn't cover Zach Edey, right? He's the Player of the Year, and I think the guards are like sophomores now, and they're smart and they shoot well and they pass well. And Painter's a terrific coach. And I think, they've learned a little bit from blowing it last year. And everybody doubted them this year, and yet they proved everybody wrong. Right now, I'm going with Purdue.
Okay, so Purdue Boilermakers for Mr. Jim Maisano. You heard it here first. Jim, we really do appreciate you joining us. Best of luck on your bracket this season. Maybe it's the time of year to win $1 million if you can get this thing perfect. But if not, we wish you the best of luck. And
no, my bracket will be broken on Thursday. The first day I'll be watching it. It'll already be broken, my bracket, like every year.
Yeah.
Well, nonetheless, good luck. Make sure to go follow him on Twitter at Jim Maisano and follow the College Hoops Chat radio show at COLL Hoops Chat on Twitter. Jim, thanks again for joining us. Great conversations. I'm excited for this time of year.
Thank you for the invitation. I really enjoyed our chat and enjoy the games this week. They're going to be great.
Yeah, they sure are. They sure are. Thank you, Jim.
All right, great.
It was a great
Bye-bye
time.
now.
See ya.
Okay.
Ben, episode 36. We tick down on the end. This is kind of the last time we're going to talk college basketball before it really gets down to business. Anything else you want to touch on? It's been a loaded episode.
I'll tell you what. This is one of the shortest. This might be the shortest.
Hey, 41 minutes, guys. We're rolling in on it.
Every fan that wanted like shorter episodes is right here.
Yeah. Mr. Maisano was great. Really glad he decided to join us this afternoon or tonight now. You're getting the episode a day early, guys. Hey, guys, it is a great time of year to be a Southern Boys Sports Podcast listener. You're getting 40-minute episodes and episodes a day early. Plus, if you go over to University Traditions, you can get a 15% off coupon, you could say, with the code SBS15.
Discount.
UniversityTraditions.biz. Really cool stuff. They sent our hats are on the way. We gave one out over on Twitter. I got to announce the winner right after this episode. And they've been great to us. Been awesome to work with. Adam and the guys over at University Traditions are phenomenal. Ben, our hats are on the way. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm so excited.
That Oklahoma hat is in high demand, almost out of stock. They made an exception. Ben, you're getting one, baby. So they're on the way. And if you're listening right now, a lot of them are about to go out of stock, and there's also a lot of sales, right? A couple half off hats over there. So go over to universitytraditions.biz. Go look at their Twitter, find their Instagram, all that good stuff. Go purchase a hat. Use code SBS15. They're a great time. They're a great company to work with. So, Ben, it's been weird, man. I hate missing college football, but maybe the greatest sporting event of all time on our fingertips right now.
I know. Tonight, there's no college basketball, nothing.
It's weird.
I've been watching the XFL. It's the amount of dropped everything is wild, but it's an interesting game.
AJ McCarron and the Battlehawks are they just picked up a win, didn't they, over the Renegades?
I could not.
I was watching the game and I saw AJ McCarron out there balling. So
I'm watching the Vipers and the Defenders. I think
the names are just like you. That's like I feel like you could just do a little better. Like I have nothing against it. It's great for these players to get a second chance. But I forget our 11U rec baseball team was named the Vipers. Like I feel like you could ramp it up a little bit. Like
we changed the color in the Villanova logo, and that was our logo, neon green.
Oh man! And then the year after that, what were we with my dad coached, and we were the Rockies. That was good. The Rockies. Yeah, we were good that year. Ben, we're working on an in-person set right now.
Of course.
I saw some chairs for the set at Goodwill, $20 a pop. They're not exactly what I wanted, but they weren't bad. Also picked up this MTSU golf shirt for $150. So, I'm feeling good about my Goodwill pickups. We got a couple minutes here. I'm going to keep it under 50 minutes. That's my goal.
All right. We can keep it under.
We hooped at the Y, me and our buddy Max.
Uh-oh.
There's this little guy at the local Y named Danny. All right. Maybe literally like 5'2".
Oh.
My boy doesn't miss. My boy does not miss from three. I guarded him. He was on for like 6 straight games. When I tell you he pulled from half court, no change in jump shot, nailed it. I
mean, I've seen you do that in rec.
It's weird at the Y because you can't really go corner all the way down in the corner because it's cut off because it's a shortened court.
Right.
So it's odd. And there were some guys who were killing me and Max, a couple other buddies and, guys who, we know were out there hooping as well. But it was a tough run.
Jordan Teamu plays for the Defenders.
He played at A&M and he played for the Chiefs.
It's him and De'Aaron King. They're splitting snaps.
De'Aaron King. He went to Miami and Houston. Yeah. And then I think the Eagles tried to move him to receiver. And then
I remember
no. That was that other quarterback who played for. That was something Ward. I want to say Jeff Ward or something like that. Greg Ward. He played quarterback.
Yeah. I think he's still in the league.
Maybe, yeah. I got the
Niners or something.
Yeah, but Derek King was one of the first guys to sign an NIL with Miami, which isn't surprising.
That is so true.
But yeah, hey, this has been a great episode 36. We are continuing. We're at episode 36. Big thanks to University Traditions for helping us with that promo code. Big thanks to Mr. Jim Maisano for joining us. Make sure to go check out the College Hoops Chat radio show. They do great work over there. And if you can't tune in because you live in Nashville and not in New Rochelle, New York, I think they are on Twitter and all that good stuff. So make sure to tune into the post-recorded version. Ben, any other takeaways, anything you want to touch on from March Madness before the action starts on Thursday?
Dude, I'm excited.
I think we're going to go back to college football in episode 37, but we will definitely make sure
to obviously touch. Yeah.
It's going to be hard not to. So
you think you're going to have a bracket clean through then?
Yeah, we might have to check up on our brackets because they're going to be broken.
There's no way I'm getting through the first round clean.
No, I don't think so. I almost made the first round clean the year Baylor won it, right? So that was the year that UCLA made a run. I was 982nd in the ESPN tournament challenge thing.
Oh, I think 1 year
out of like 26 million. I was going wild.
1 year I was up there. I don't remember. It was when Tech.
Okay, it's like 2019, maybe.
Tech was in. I think it was. Well, did they make the championship that year? Right.
It was Virginia and Texas Tech. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I had them going to the Final Four. I thought it was like the greatest prediction of all time. But I mean, I didn't even have them making the championship. But it was a good bracket. Haven't had a good one since. St. Peter's last year.
Yeah, that screwed me.
A single bracket with St. Peter's winning. So
yeah. I had Kentucky go to like the Elite Eight and just about I was set.
I had them winning in the last Southern Boys Sports one. I had them winning. And so that was like a rough one.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the 36th episode of the Southern Boys Sports.
Early winner.
Early winner. I have Kansas. I like Kansas a lot. I like Grady Dick. I like Grady Dick. So I like what we're doing there. Ben shaking his head, not approving that statement.
I don't know how. I mean, I don't know who can beat Bama other than Boomer Sooner, but I don't know who's beating Bama.
Right. I don't like Alabama, so I'm just going to go against them. I'd love to see Creighton make a run and beat them. I'd love to see Duke make a run to the Final Four and beat them. But yeah. Thank you for tuning in to the 36th episode of the Southern Boys Sports Podcast. We kept it under 50 minutes for all of our listeners. Jim Maisano was great. Again, make sure to go follow him on Twitter and his College Sports Hoop Chat show. Make sure to follow our Twitter at @so_boy_sports. We're over 200 followers. I think we're at 220. So continue to follow us over on Twitter. If you're listening or watching, follow us on Twitter. Also, follow our Instagram. We're looking for 100 followers over there at Southern_boy_sports pod. That will be in the description as well. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and come back for episode 37 of the Southern Boys Sports Podcast. But for episode 36, we talked college hoops with Jim Maisano, had some small talk at the beginning and the end, kept it under 50 minutes. Ben, it's been a good one. Any objections before you end it off?
No, I'm all right.
This has been the 36th episode of the Southern Boys Sports Podcast. Same time, same place, next week. See you, boys.